You're watching Ready Set Drone, and today I have the EMAX FPV combo with the TinyHawk Freestyle. This thing is an amazing little freestyle quad that uses two 1S batteries and flies like crazy, so stay tuned and we'll check it out. It comes in this box, and it does have the entire kit. It comes with the E8 controller that comes with other EMAX products. This is the same one you might use for the TinyHawk 3. And this thing is a great little controller. It's got ELRS built into it. That's the protocol they're using. It comes with a full set of extra props. And by the way, it is props in. So if you're setting it up, you want to set it up with props in. It does come with the Transporter 2 goggles and some tools and the actual quad itself right here, which is this little guy. One disappointing thing about this is it did not come with a hex driver to put the 8 screws in that you need to mount the propellers. So we actually ended up having to go to Home Depot and find the tiniest little hex driver we could in order to mount the propellers on properly.
That seems to work.
Oh, thanks, EMAX. This Allen key was actually for the goggles and the controller, but if you want to actually use an Allen key to put the props on, as you're putting them on props in, it doesn't come with that Allen key. It also isn't gonna come with a handy case, which EMAX sometimes supplies. There's lots of cases you can get. As a matter of fact, if you've been in quads for a while, you might already have a case that this would fit in, but it's really small. It's carbon fiber. It does have an ELRS receiver built into it, and it does use the HD Zero protocol for the video. Now the camera is tiny. See that little thing right there? Just a tiny little camera. It doesn't have any onboard recording, so if you're gonna record, you're gonna do it in the DVR in the goggles. We talked about these goggles in our review of the TinyHawk 3. They're the Transporter 2 goggles. The lens pops off like that, which is pretty nice because you can actually view it. You can attach it to the transmitter, or you can put it in the goggles. The goggles extend. You can pull them out like that, and that's gonna be the ideal setup for viewing the screen in the goggles. You attach the two antennas, and the goggles have a slot right here for a micro SD card if you want to record using the built-in DVR. Now, a couple of other things about the goggles. They record in a TS format, which is a video format that's a little unusual, and they do auto record, or you can set them up to start auto recording. They're a little picky about what cards they will record to, first of all. So you only want a 16, 32, or maybe 64 gig card. You don't want to put a 128 or a 256 in here. It's not going to work. So a smaller card is actually better, and the card itself should be formatted in the goggles before you start for ideal setup. Also, keep in mind that if you are recording, check the recordings in the playback on the screen after you're done, because a lot of times you might get a corrupted file and it won't play back. I say a lot of times, it's happened to us a few times, and so if it's an important recording to you, check it after you're done to make sure you got it, and if you didn't get it, go fly again. One other brief criticism we have about these goggles: they're not bad quality, they're not great quality, but they do sneak up on you and stop suddenly if you're flying and you run the battery out. So the flight time with these goggles we got was between 25 and 35 minutes. I don't know if there's settings or adjustments that will affect that, but after that period of time, let's say 25 minutes you've been flying, they just stop, they just cut out. So if you are flying with these goggles and you've been flying a few battery packs, recharge before you fly, or get a USB-C battery pack that you can just plug in, like one of those little battery bricks, plug it into the side so that they're getting some power while you're flying. Because what you don't want to have happen is you're up doing a cool, massive flip in the sky over the water, and then these go away and your quad goes away too. Goggle's dead.
No! God, please, no! No!
Now, the radio itself, actually, I appreciate that it comes with these labels that tell you what all the switches do, and then the gimbals themselves, they're not bad. It's it's an okay little radio for what it is. It does have the ELRS protocol built into it. It does have trim switches. Keep in mind too, the trim switches on this, as well as the one for the TinyHawk 3, take a lot of pushes. They're very small increments, and so if you're trying to trim this thing, don't give up. Just keep pressing the trim switch until it actually seems to be drifting the direction you want it to drift. It is definitely a little beefier and a little bit heavier than the other TinyHawk Freestyles that we've had in the past. The carbon fiber is very sturdy. It's taken some bashing that we've done to it and it's been just fine. Does not have any onboard recording. All the recording happens in the DVR. And the power to weight ratio on this thing, because it uses 2 batteries, is phenomenal. It just gets up and goes. As a matter of fact, the first time you fly it, be careful you're not under anything, 'cause if you're under a tree or something or a building, you're gonna probably go right up into it. It's the first thing I did, first time I flew one of these freestyle quads. It can do loops, rolls, flips, all that stuff, but it doesn't do great in a lot of wind because it is still small and doesn't have a whole lot of power to cut through the wind. It's okay, it's a lot better than a TinyHawk, but being a freestyle, it is okay in a light breeze, but I wouldn't fly it in anything gusty. We did fly it out over the water. We did fly it kind of in a sandy area and got a little bit of sand in the motors, which we were able to get out by turning them and blowing on them. You don't want to do that if you can avoid it, but we were just in a few spots and we felt like it was great to fly. We were able to do some power loops. We were able to do flips, rolls, dives, all that stuff with it, and it behaves very well as a freestyle quad. It's fun to fly with this radio. You know, it feels pretty good. The gimbals, again, on this are not quite as good as you're gonna get with a more expensive radio, but as a starter kit that comes with everything, it's not a bad radio at all. It does come with 2 1S EMAX batteries. They're 650 milliamp hours, and they kind of just strap right here on top with this strap. They hold down pretty well. It is a little bit challenging to get the 2 of them into this and then kind of bend this in such a way that the capacitor is not getting bent in here. I almost wish this was a little longer, but I know why it's not, because they're trying to avoid hitting the propellers as they're spinning. So just know that probably your best bet is to plug both batteries in and then lay them down on the frame and strap them in after you've plugged them in, because they're hard to plug in if these are already strapped down. And then also keep in mind, the usual thing with EMAX is that some of the cables here can be a little bit long, the cables that go out to the motor, and they can get caught in the prop. Like the prop can actually hit them if they're in the wrong position. So before you take off each time, just look at those cables, make sure the props are spinning freely, not hitting the either power, the battery, or the wires that go out to the motors. So a couple of hints about assembling this. Really all you have to do is put on the props. And these props would be easy to get upside down or right side up. You really just want to look at where the curve is and where the front edge is, and you can tell which way they should go. And so props in means that the props face and spin towards the camera from the front. So that one goes like that. This one goes like this. So basically you can see these 2 are opposite. This one, the curve is that way. This one, the curve is that way. And then of course they're gonna be the opposite diagonally across. So this one matches that one, so it's gonna be over here. And this one matches that one, so it's gonna be over here. If you do take off for the first time and you're getting some weird shaking, or it's just not taking off and behaving weirdly, it may very well be that the props are on the wrong spots, or you have one misaligned. So make sure these 2 are opposite, and make sure that as they spin towards, they're spinning towards the front of the quad, props in. So who's this for? This little quad is for someone who wants to get into flying FPV, doing freestyle, doing dives, doing rolls, wants to fly outdoors but not in gusty conditions, and likes to be able to see the image pretty well because of the HD Zero, but doesn't want to spend the money on a true digital system like DJI. It's a very competitively priced, ready to fly kit. EMAX has done a great job of putting this together. I do wish they had included the hex driver and that they had a bag for it, but again, they had to cut costs somewhere in order to keep it affordable. So hopefully you can get those things separately, or you just don't have a bag, you just strap it to your backpack or get some Velcro and put it on your hat, or any number of things you could do. I mean, it does look pretty cool. This would make a nice hat accessory if you could get it to stay up there somehow. Let me know what you think about freestyle quads and about the EMAX TinyHawk 3 Plus Freestyle with HD. We'd love to know, because it's quite a name and it's quite a quad. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Ready, Set, Drone. What are the odds of getting through this lattice, the pergola above us?
Oh goodness. 1 out of 100.
Yeah. Probably better than that.
All right. Oh, dude! You did it.
Did it go through?
I think so.
Wow, okay.
You wanna get me? I was scared.
You kind of grab yourself, soccer style.
Just a reflex, I guess. Oh!
Sorry. Everybody okay?
I think so.
'Tis but a scratch.
Tree, tree, tree. Tree, tree, tree.
It's hot in here.
It's hot in here. So we ended up having to go home. So we actually ended up having to go to Home Depot and find the tiniest little hex driver we could in order to mount the propellers on properly. Because we're by the book flyers. Hashtag buy the book flyers.